Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Jamie Hughes Show. My name as always is Jamie Hughes and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Stan and Ollie. Now if you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always in my videos this review may include spoilers so you have now been warned. Stan and Ollie is such a warm, charming, heartfelt movie. I absolutely adored this film. The best way I can describe this movie, and this isn't a negative in any way, shape or form, is that it just felt like you were slipping on an old pair of comfy slippers. It just made you feel warm, fuzzy inside. You knew the characters, it felt like you knew the story, and yeah, it just gave you that warm, fuzzy feeling. And one of the big things that I liked about this movie is that it took place a lot later on in Laurel and Hardy's life, so we didn't get to see their rise. We essentially saw their fall because this movie takes place after their superstardom, after their essential retirement / breakup, and then what this story then becomes is a story of redemption as you see the guilt from Laurel and Hardy and how, you know, they both really love each other and want to make amends with each other. And yeah, I just love that we had this really warm story and then you had that real story of redemption kind of channeling its way through this movie as well. And I've mentioned them, Laurel and Hardy, Stan and Ollie, and I have to mention the performers of and the performances, should I say, of Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly. I thought that they were both so good. They just had great chemistry together. They were able to bounce off each other so well. I think I preferred John C. Reilly performances as Ollie a little bit more than Coogan's as Stan. I know that Coogan has got a lot of love for this movie and he's actually been nominated for a couple of BAFTAs for it, but personally I felt like John C. Reilly's was like better for me. I enjoyed his performance more, but that's not to say that they both weren't very good. And what I did love about both of their performances is that they were very different. John C. Reilly's was very over the top, you know, he was very flamboyant's probably not the right word, but he was, you know, he was very exaggerated in his portrayal of Ollie. And then you had Steve Coogan, who was very almost stripped back and very nuanced as his performance of Stan. You know, a lot of his work was done in the face and the eyebrows, and yeah, I just love these two together. I want to see them work together again. They were just electric together on screen. They just had great chemistry bouncing back and forth on each other. But the two characters and performances I also want to praise and point out were that of the wives. You had Lucille, who was played by Lena Henderson, and then you had Ida, who was played by Nina Ardina. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but these two were again just electric, and you almost had this characterization flip. So you had Stan, who was a very quiet character and a very kind of subdued performance, and then you had Ida, who was this really over the top. She just stole every scene she was in. She was brilliant, was Nina Ardina as Ida. She was just, again, just over the top, a big ball of fire and a big ball of energy that really drove this movie forward. And then, as I said, you had John C. Reilly, who played this very over the top, but then Mrs. Henderson, Lena Henderson, she played this very understated as Lucille, Ollie's wife. She was very kind of more subdued, but still very forceful. And essentially what I'm saying here is that all four of these characters, all four of these actors had great chemistry together. They bounced off each other. They were just wonderful, and it was an absolute joy to watch. So another thing I really wanted to point out that was great about Stan and Ollie was the direction, more specifically the direction of the theatre scenes and sequences, because they were just so immersive, and I just found myself getting lost in these big, long, extravagant theatre pieces. I just loved the way that the camera would sweep through the audience and it would just make you feel like you were there. And I do have to admit that after one, I can't remember which scene it was, but it was quite a long theatre scene, is that the end of the scene, I almost found myself clapping along with the audience in the movie because I was so engrossed in this film. It was just great. And I tell you what, one thing that I didn't see coming was how emotional this movie was. I didn't feel like it was going to affect me as much as it did. Now, obviously, spoilers here. especially towards the end of the movie. A little spoiler warning here, because the end of the movie, wow, it really got to me and it stuck with me for a little bit. And that is where you know, Ollie comes out and he says, we want to perform a little dance for you, which has been the thing that he hasn't been able to do throughout this movie because of his deteriorating health. And all the way through that scene, I was just like holding my breath. I was like, oh my God, is he going to collapse and die? Is he going to do it? And, you know, that euphoric moment where they finish together and, you know, everybody's up on their feet, it just filled my heart with joy. And I was just, it was a mixture of just pure like joy and relief at the same time. It just, yeah, it really hit me like a lot harder than I thought it was going to. So after this movie's triumphant ending, we get this little bit of scripture obviously describing that after the events of the film a few years later, that Ollie sadly passed away. And after Ollie passed away, Stan continued to write stories and scripts and movies for Laurel and Hardy to perform, but obviously he would never get the chance to again, and he never performed with anybody again. And that just got me right in the feels, right in the heart, and I absolutely adored Stan and Ollie. What a wonderful, charming, warm film this is, and I urge you, all of you guys, to go and see this. But if you have already seen Stan and Ollie, let me know what you thought about it, as always, down in those comments below. And if you did enjoy this video and you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the very next episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. Ta-ra!